morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to episode 9 of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show. I'm one of your hosts, Bill Shawcross. Huge show for you today. We got to go over last week's action. Big ranked matchup last week that happened. Heartbreak at Husky Stadium. We'll talk about that. Alex, sorry. Another huge matchup this week from one of our other co-hosts, Cottrell. Battle at the Horseshoe. We got College Football Eliminator, pick 'em, upset alert, reviews, previews, everything you're used to getting from us. So before we get going, I'm going to introduce two guys to make this show what it is. First off, my Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson from all over Ohio. Every week he's somewhere different. How you feeling this morning? How you feeling?
Now, I'm feeling good. I'm back up in Cleveland now. Would be better to be, in the fine home of Columbus, but that's perfectly fine. I watch my Buckeyes get a dub here rather shortly. So, but I'm feeling good though. Feeling good.
That place is depressing. Looks like a toilet bowl, but neither here nor there. Next, got to go to my guy on the West Coast. Probably still got a heavy heart from last week. Didn't quite turn out the way, that I thought it was going to anyway. And I know it didn't turn out the way Alex wanted to. We're going to get into it, though. But Mr. Black Alex Elmore from the West Coast, how's the funeral going out there for Oregon?
It's quite a sad week for me. Not only did my Oregon Ducks lose their undefeated record, my San Francisco 49ers did the very same thing the very next day in the exact same way. It was like I was watching the Oregon game on repeat. So I'm a little glum this week, and you guys are lucky I came to work.
Go Browns.
I'm not going to say I enjoyed it. Somebody on this show enjoyed that San Francisco game as well, though.
Hey,
that's all I'm going to say.
They started shit before the game, and Jake Moody's a Michigan kicker, so just made it even sweeter that he was the guy who missed the 41-yarder.
I will be honest.
Deep.
That kid.
That's deep.
He's a really good kicker. I am shocked he missed that. I really am.
The worst part was his entire family was at the game to watch him kick.
That made it even better.
Shell's using up all his good karma points.
I don't care.
Might hurt him later today in round 12.
Rookie Michigan kicker for the Niners? Come on now.
All right. Enough NFL.
Well, I'm not putting Black on until the Ducks win again, so taking a week off.
Hopefully that'll be this week.
Is the black symbolic of your sadness, like the funeral?
Funeral.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm an ally then. See, I got you. Had the Ducks last week. Now I'm in the black. I'm an ally.
Too much love on this show. It's gotta get heated.
That's gonna change soon.
It is. So, all right, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start with last week's games, like we always do. That's how we lead off the show. We're going to go over the big 4 games from last week. Then we'll get into College Football Eliminator. Fortunately, there's some movement again this week. Good for the show. Not for Alex's soul, per se, but good for the show. Sacrifices need to be made sometimes, Alex. Then we'll get into our upset alert, pick 'em, previews, everything. So let's get rolling because we got a lot to do today. So where are we starting first?
West Coast is the best coast.
All right. Not going to say I told you so. But I told you so. Dante Moore struggles on the road. Oregon State, 36. UCLA, 24. Cottrell sugarcoated it for y'all last week. And I think some of y'all went out and bought some ice cream cones. And then you're like, damn, this ice cream stinks. And Oregon State put on the show. DJU. I wouldn't say a flashy game, but an effective game. Damian Martinez did his thing as always. Dante Moore struggled. I mean, again, I think this is a kid that the next 2 years you're going to hear a ton about. I think he's got a crazy high ceiling. I think he's going to be a very, very good college quarterback. Probably a potential Heisman guy in 2 years, maybe even next year. He's a kid. We talk about this all the time. He's an 18-year-old kid playing in a very hostile environment of Beaverton. Not an easy stadium to go in and play. The fans are right on top of you. And he struggled against that defense. Oregon State comes away with a huge ranked win for themselves. They stay alive in the Pac-12. UCLA takes the loss. I don't know. What were your first impressions from the game, Alex? I'll go to West Coast here.
Yeah, no. From what I saw in the game, the difference for me was the turnover battle. I mean, Oregon State won 3 turnovers. UCLA only had the 1. Oregon State was able to jump out to a quick 13-0 lead in that first quarter, but from after that, it was kind of blow for blow. Dante Moore was able to kind of get his feet underneath him, and he played a lot better, in the second half of the game, and really led some really nice drives against the Oregon State defense. Like I said, if you take that first quarter away, we're looking at a possible 1-possession game. And honestly, if they were to play again and they were playing at the Rose Bowl, I think the result might be switched up. And also, like I said, 2 years from now, UCLA is going to be a team to watch out for. I'm saying it here now. 2025, I think UCLA is going to be top 10 team, one of the top 10 teams in the country. So I'm excited to see where that team will go going forward. But Oregon State did a great job creating turnovers, and ultimately that helped them win the game.
Cottrell, talk to me about your boy Dante Moore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the environment, Corvallis, definitely got to him. Three interceptions is very, uncharacteristic of him. And I will say, the UCLA team, they still fought. They tried to get it done on the ground. Obviously, you see the amount of carries that they had. They tried to take some of that pressure off Dante Moore. But at the end of the day, with the way the Oregon State offense was putting up points, you're going to have Dante Moore ultimately try and push the ball down the field and score. So got to give all the credit in the world to that Oregon State defense there. And Alex, I 100% agree with you. I think that UCLA team is going to be a force to reckon with next year, and then even 2 years from now when Dante Moore is going into his true junior season. So obviously it's going to be an adjustment for them getting used to being in the Big Ten, but I fully expect that UCLA team to be, considered one of the best teams in the country. And then for Oregon State, I mean, Oregon State was a team that we considered a sleeper to potentially win that Pac-12 over there. And I know, we're going to talk about the heavy hitters, obviously, USC, Washington, and Oregon. But Oregon State is a team that has come in and week out, outside of their one blunder or earlier on in the year. They've come in week out and taking care of business. So, you got to give those Beavers all the credit in the world, because they might sneak their way into the Pac-12 championship.
I mean, they definitely could. And that's why I bring up what I said about Dante Moore. I mean, I think UCLA, obviously going to the Big Ten next year is going to be a little bit of an adjustment to some degree, but like I said, he's a kid. He's a true freshman. I mean, this isn't a red shirt. This is, he graduated high school, 8 months ago. So, I mean, but you see the flashes, you see the brilliance, you see why he was rated the way he was, but he's just young. And I feel like from what I watched too, by all means, I didn't watch the full game. I saw a big chunk of it though. I feel like he really tries to force the ball when he's away from home for some reason. And I think he just gets anxious, and I think he tries to make a big play and not take what the defense gives him sometimes, and he gets in trouble. Because when you see him at home in front of his home crowd and he's comfortable, he looks like a completely different quarterback. He sits in there, he bounces around, goes through his progressions, he'll dump the ball off. And on the road, he becomes kind of like a gunslinger. And when that works, it's great. But when it doesn't, against an older, experienced team like Oregon State, this is kind of what it leads to. But Alex, what were you going to say? Because I know I cut you off by accident.
Yeah, no, you're good, my man. I was going to say, you are correct. At home he does play with a different type of mentality, but you also got to think about this. In his young career, in the last 3 games, he's played against 3 ranked opponents. All right, he had Utah at Utah. He won the game against Washington State at home. Then they lost to Oregon State this last week. So he's had some really stiff competition lately that's really made him try to force the ball, like you said, and try to kind of make those plays that kind of bring his team over the top. He's barely completed. Actually, he's completed less than 50% of his passes. But the thing is that his teams have been in these games. He's still been able to keep them in there, and that's really the true sign of a winner. With someone like Carson Steele next to him, kind of helping him, relieve that pressure and running the ball well. I do have high hopes for UCLA going forward for the rest of the season. And Oregon State, I will never say anything nice about them.
I get it.
We get it. But all right, I mean, like Cottrell said, Oregon State, I mean, they're still alive. It's a team, to Alex's point as well. We keep hearing Washington, Oregon, USC. this is a team nobody's talking about, and they're sitting there with one loss. So, it'll be very interesting to see what comes down the stretch. So let's go to our next game, though. Let's keep rolling. Oof. All right. North Carolina, Miami. We spent a good chunk of the show last week crapping on Miami's coaching staff, mainly Mr. One, Mario Cristobal. Alex has no love lost for that man whatsoever. But we were all very curious to see how Miami was going to come out and respond. This looks like a 10-point game. I could tell you this game was not this close at all. They were up 38-17, I want to say, with like 6 minutes to go, something like that. North Carolina pulled everybody. This was not a 10-point game. North Carolina came out and took Miami to the woodshed pretty good here. Drake May kind of really starting to heat up. I went on a tangent about this on Wire to Wire when it happened. And I think I get even more pissed off now after I've seen this kid play for 2 weeks. Tez Walker's a damn stud. He is a difference maker. That kid is incredible. 6 receptions, 132 yards, 3 touchdowns. Takes the top off, can go over the middle. If you don't tackle him and he gets in stride, he's gone. He's gone. I think we have to start talking about North Carolina. Am I wrong? Because I'll say this. I think, Cottrell talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I think he was spot on. I think Drake May's taken a lot of his high-risk stuff out of his game because people were kind of like, his numbers aren't as good as last year's. But I think he's been a very smart quarterback this year, and he's been more efficient. And now all of a sudden, he got this new toy 2 weeks ago, and now Drake May is looking like last year Drake May number-wise, but he's protecting the ball still. I think it's like, is it too early? But I feel like North Carolina might be the best team that nobody's talking about. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's definitely possible. I think with the way that the ACC is kind of shaken out so far, it's still kind of tough to tell. I don't want to discredit anything that they've done because they've taken care of business against everybody that they faced so far. But also, let's not forget that, and I know it was earlier in the season, Tez Walker obviously wasn't playing then, but it took them double overtime to beat Appalachian State. So, is that the North Carolina team that I'm going to see go up against, later on in the season, potentially, Florida State or maybe even Duke, in the ACC championship game? I know they play each other in football, a regular season as well, but that North Carolina team, I do think they're very good. The offense is explosive, and Tez Walker definitely adds a new dynamic for them. My concern with them, though, is that once they go up against that Florida State, or that Duke, what does that team look like? I'm not necessarily worried about the offense putting up points, but do they have the guys to handle, Jordan Travis and Keon Coleman and those guys at Florida State? Is that a game that they'll win? Think they're good? I personally, we got 5 conferences here that still have an undefeated team here. North Carolina is probably, I would say, in that second tier of teams. For me, right now, I think I respect Oklahoma more than I respect North Carolina.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think Oklahoma is the better. I think maybe they're the better team right now. I think Oklahoma also has, a little bit of the recency bias because they have the win over Texas. Whereas North Carolina, I think, has all their big games ahead of them still.
Yeah.
I think their last game's NC State, but the week before that, I believe they played Duke. So they don't play Duke.
Clemson.
Yeah, Duke.
Yeah, they got they end their season with Duke, Clemson, and North Carolina State.
All right, so that's going to tell the tale there. I'm not necessarily saying that they're definitely making the college football playoff. I think there's a good shot they make a New Year's Day bowl though. It's they have a lot ahead of them, and like you said, we're going to shake out the ACC here. Pretty soon. We have another big matchup later today, actually. But that's going to be a fun conference to watch come down the stretch as well. Alex, I'm going to let you do the fun part of this. And I'm gonna let you crap all over your favorite coach, ex-coach, Emmanuel Cristobal and the Hurricanes. So take it away.
Well, like I said last week, I ripped into Mario Cristobal. I told you exactly what I thought about him, but I did say that I thought the Miami players would come out and have each other's backs and play for each other, and kind of say, "Screw him, let's make the season about us." And realistically, they did come out. They came out. They played tough. They played North Carolina well. It looked like it was actually going to be a game. Miami even had the lead at halftime, 17-14, and then Mario Cristobal made some adjustments at halftime, and it all went to shit. So I think Miami deserves better. If he doesn't finish the season out strong, next year we might be talking about him on the hot seat, which I think would be absolutely amazing. But talking about North Carolina and their chances at the college football playoff, people have a very short memory. Last year, North Carolina was in the exact same spot. Of course, they did have a loss to Notre Dame last year earlier in the season, but essentially they were in the exact same spot they were in now, controlling their own destiny. And they went out and they lost the last 4 games of the year, including the bowl game against Oregon. So it's hard for me to be like on top of the North Carolina and be like, oh, yay, when last year in the same exact position, the team completely shut down. They didn't have the weapons they have this year. But the last 2 games of the year against Duke, Clemson, North Carolina State, last 3 games, that's a tough stretch. And then if they are able to get through that stretch, they're going to most likely have Florida State in the ACC or the ACC championship. So that's just a really tough stretch of games, and we're really going to find out the difference that Tez Walker can make, and if Drake May is, the quarterback that we all think he can be.
I will say, pump your brakes there on the. I get it. You want Mario to be on the hot seat there. I think right now he's recruiting too well to be on that seat. He's got Miami back as being in the top 10 in terms of recruiting. So I think if he keeps bringing those guys in, I know they're not going to settle for 8-4 seasons every year, but you keep bringing in top 10 classes, like they're going to kind of give you a little bit of a longer leash just because they hadn't been getting that. It's been a while since Miami's been recruiting the way that they are right now.
The class
I do agree with you. Go ahead, Bill. You go first.
No,
you go.
I was gonna go to Cottrell. The class that he brought in this year, plus the one he has coming in this year, he's going to be able to have them for 2 years, I think, before he gets. Unless next year's a complete disaster. Like if they go out next year and they're like 6-6, then I might be like, all right, like,
yep.
But if they go 8-4 with all those kids as freshmen and sophomores, he's going to get that next year to really prove himself with them being juniors and sophomores. And then if he doesn't succeed there, then I think he's in trouble. But to Cottrell's point, he's kind of put Miami kind of back on the map where they haven't been for the last decade. I mean, there's a lot of there's kind of swag back in Miami. So not really showing it on the field necessarily per se. You're not seeing the dividends pay off there. But with the recruiting and what's coming, I think as long as he can keep continuing to develop talent for the recruits that he's bringing in, I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, but here's what I'm going to say about that, and then we can move on. Coaching decisions like last week, that boneheaded call that cost him the game, will cost him players. There were players on that Miami sideline that had instantly given up on him the second he made that call and lost them their chance at what could have been a great season. So I think come transfer portal time, I think we might see more players leaving Miami than coming in. So that's my opinion. Like I said, you can coach your way out of great recruits. And so far, the last 2 games, I don't know if I would want to play for a guy like that because clearly the team is not getting up for him and playing for the moment.
I get it. I definitely get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with anything you say, Alex. I'm not. It's just we're gonna see. It's a really unfortunate mistake, and I don't think anybody feels worse about it than him. The problem is the kids are the ones that are paying the price for it, and
he's done it twice. He can't feel bad.
He's done it twice. I was going to say, I don't think he feels bad about it. I think he stands by it, and if he was in this situation, I think he'd do it again because that was his second time doing it, but it just happened to backfire on him.
It backfired the first time. It backfired both times.
Third time's a charm, baby.
If he does it a third time, he's coaching high school only.
All right, let's move on. All right. This is not going to be the – well, I mean, we kind of all agreed on this one. So I'll say this. We told you so on this one. USC was begging to get beat. Cottrell said it a couple times last show. They were begging for the L. They went into South Bend and they found it real quick. South
Bend over.
Notre Dame put a beating on USC, a beating, and I mean a beating. I think their season was all, for lack of a better term, their season kind of really wasn't on the line. You get your third loss here, you're probably not even playing anywhere near New Year's Day, and that's not acceptable, for the Notre Dame fan base and administration and everything else. I think if you're a Marcus Freeman fan, I think it's a very positive step to watch those kids rally around him and come out and have this type of performance. So if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I look at this game kind of the opposite of what we just talked about. And, Alex made a couple very good points at the end of that. If you're a Notre Dame fan, I think you have to look at him and be like, all right, like, I think he is the guy. Those kids responded to him and they came out and played their asses off for him. And they embarrassed USC. Caleb Williams, it's the worst game of his college career by far. Looked very pedestrian. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't like the attitude. He looked very disinterested when they got down. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If that continues, and he's got that little like type of like ego thing, I'm going to tell you who it reminds me of. And it's the guy that a lot of people think he's going to get correct. That's exactly who he reminds me of. You're supposed to be the leader. You love it when you're getting all the glitz and glamour and you're the Heisman winner and everything else. You're getting beat that bad. You need to be a better leader for your team. He was sitting on the sideline like he didn't give a shit. I hate that. I'm not saying you can't smile if somebody says something funny or something like that. I'm not one of those people that thinks you have to sit on the bench and cry when you're losing. I'm not saying that. He acted like he didn't give a care in the world about anything that was going on that field once he got pulled. I hate that. But back to the game, Sam Hartman looked like he did at the beginning of the year. 126 yards, very effective. This was, it was a weird game. Like you look at the stats, like nobody had killer stats for Notre Dame. It's just all the turnovers. They had short fields, and they took advantage of every single one of them. Didn't protect Caleb Williams, threw 3 picks. Offense was all out of whack. And listen, that defense is atrocious. I would say this wasn't the worst performance because they were put on the field on their own 30 or 40-yard line a couple times. You can't really fault the defense for that, for giving up points there. But, I'm going to go to Cottrell first in this one. We knew this was coming. We told everybody this was coming. Their defense is, like, generationally bad. I don't think people understand that. and I say, like, kind of tongue-in-cheek where it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of true. They are horrendous, dude. Like, they are bad. I don't know. See, I know you saw it and everything else. Just what did you think?
So, I think the big thing is that if you watch the game and just look at the numbers here, Audric Esme had 22 carries in this one. So they were going to – they learned from their mistake, last week. He only had 10. This time he had 22. Their first 2 plays of the game, they put the ball in his hands and let him try to, build that momentum there. And then I will say that Notre Dame defense, I knew they were going to be up for the task. Now, I didn't think they would get 6 sacks and force Caleb to throw 3 interceptions. But I definitely thought they would be up for the task in this game. Caleb Williams looked so uncomfortable out there, and it almost looked like he didn't know what he was seeing. And so got to give all the credit in the world to Marcus Freeman there. I think that kind of performance there just shows you that he can coach. Like, I know there was some doubt because, he hasn't always won like those big games and this early on in his career. But I feel like he showed that game that when he goes in with that game plan, like he can execute it, and those guys are locked in. So I think that Notre Dame team is really in a great spot right now. Obviously, this year they have no more college football aspirations, but I think on the other side for USC, like that performance there, I feel like Notre Dame laid out the blueprint. You get Caleb off of his spots. You make him uncomfortable, don't know what he's looking at there, and you're going to have a recipe to slow down that USC offense. And like you mentioned, Bill, all of these top teams now, they're going to put up points on USC. Alabama's the only one that I'd really worry about just because I think their offense is just – I don't know what I'm getting out of them. But 1 through 12. Like, I think all of those guys can put up points in this USC defense. So I think USC has, of the teams that took a loss this weekend, I know it's only one. I think they got the steepest hill to climb to get back in because what I saw did not look good.
I don't think anybody could watch this game. And if I know we're going to talk about the game next, but we've talked about Utah at length on this show and what they bring to the table. Cam Rising's back. That defense is stout. They play Utah later today, so I'm really curious to see how that game plays out. I don't think if you're not a USC homer or a Lincoln Riley fanboy, I don't think you can make me a logical argument that's actually steeped in like facts or stats that they're better than either Washington or Oregon. I just don't see it. I think their offense is great. Caleb puts on a show. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Washington and Oregon are put 50 on them. And I don't think they're going to break a sweat doing it. Both those offenses, and again, I don't get ahead of myself, so I want Alex to go first. But, if you watch that game last week, both those offenses are going to scorch that defense.
Facts.
But, Alex, go ahead. You are a Pac-12 guy. Get in here. Give me some knowledge.
All right, so I'm going to let you guys know I dug super deep into this game. I knew you guys are going to be ripping into USC, so I had to find some sort of bright light for them. And honestly, I found it in the defense. Really deep diving into the numbers. They got Notre Dame off the field. Notre Dame only converted 3 out of 10 third down conversions. 2 touchdown drives, but for less than 13 yards. And Caleb Williams threw a pick 6. That's 21 points right there. That's 21-point swing given up by Caleb Williams himself. He was the worst defender on USC's team this last week. If you take away those mistakes, we're looking at a 27-20 game, much more respectable. That last drive for USC actually has a potential of tying the game, sending it to overtime, instead of us staring at our watches waiting for the game to be over. So yes, Notre Dame demolished USC. I think this game, USC looked absolutely atrocious, but USC's defense, I think, in my mind, stepped up and kind of held their own. They did what they were asked. And Caleb Williams kind of let him down. And this is the best game I've seen USC's defense play all year. I'm not saying they're going to be locked down the rest of the season. I'm just saying that if there is a bright spot, I think USC only allowing Notre Dame 199 yards. I'll take that as a win going forward if you have to look for one.
All right. I'm going to pump the brakes on this a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not buying.
Okay. I'm not either. Okay. I'm not interested. Have a great day. So this is what I'm saying. I said the yardage didn't look off the charts, and that was because Notre Dame started a couple drives in USC territory. I understand you want to say take this away, take that away, yada, yada, yada. I get it. You could do that. But at the same time, then you have to recognize Notre Dame is going to play differently when that happened. When they were up by 20, it was, they didn't mind if they went 3 and out and burned 4 minutes off the clock. They were completely content with doing that. If they're in a 7-point game, they're not going to play that way. Their play selection, their play calling, game flow, everything's going to change. So that's the only thing I would warn you, tell you to watch against on that one. I did say right before, I gave it to Cottrell though. I think all things being considered, I don't think the defense played awful in this game compared to how they did in say the Colorado game.
No,
but
not awful.
No, but they're still bad. If you're a USC fan and this is almost like an NFL thing, where if you score with a minute and a half to go and you're a USC fan, you're going to be like, damn, that's too much time. It's like giving Patrick Mahomes the ball back with 2 minutes to go. What's coming. You can't have any confidence that team's going to be oh, I'm going to go get a 3 and out and make a punt. And we're going to go victory formation win the game. There's no level-headed USC fan that has that thought in their head in the last 2 minutes of a football game.
Okay, Alex, my question to you, though, would be, because we're about to get into them anyway, my question for you would be, after seeing that Notre Dame-USC game and seeing how the defense performed, whether you say it was, good, decent, whatever, how many points is Oregon scoring that USC defense?
63.
Exactly.
But before last week, my answer would have been 84. So take that as you will.
All right, well, let's get into it. Let's go.
We've already dropped 91 once this year. We could do it again.
All right.
What,
I don't know about you
Alex
guys.
did Alex
Go
tell
ahead.
us this was going to be a 20? What did you say, 21 or 28?
He said
I
21.
said
He said they're going by 21.
Possession. And it looked like it early. I'm not gonna lie.
So, all right, here we go. There's a lot to unpack in this game. A lot. Heartbreak at Husky Stadium. So I'm gonna call it. We talked about this, Wednesday, and I'm going to say the same thing I said Wednesday that I said here, or I'm going to say the same thing here that I said Wednesday. I know they lost the game. I think with a couple questionable coaching decisions, if he does different things, I still think if they played on a neutral field again, which could happen, I still think Oregon's the better football team. I think for long stretches, especially the second half until that one drive that Michael Penix Jr. put together and threw the touchdown pass, they dominated the second half. And you got to give Penix Jr. credit. That's what he's been doing all year. That's why he's the Heisman frontrunner. When they needed the points, he let them right down the field and got them. I still think Oregon's the better football team. I think the fourth down call right before the end of the first half, I liked. I hated the play call. I liked going for it there. It's pretty much an untimed down. Nothing bad's going to happen. I like trying to steal 6 points there. It's the first half. You still have 2 quarters to go. I love the aggressiveness there. That being said, when you're on the road and you're playing a ranked team and you're down 11 and you have the chance to put 3 points on the board to get it to one possession, you have to take them. You have to take free points on the road. I hated that. And then he did it again later. And then, not that kid should have missed the field goal at the end when they had another chance to tie it. But maybe if that's a tie game already and that's a game-winning kick, maybe he looks at it differently. Maybe he misses it, but if he does, worst case, you're still going to overtime. I understand the aggressiveness. I understand you want your kids to go out and, we're going to leave it on the field and we're going to try to win. And if we don't, we don't. But sometimes your head's got to overrule your heart a little bit. We all get that. We all make emotional decisions. I get all that. I think Bo Nix played great. I think Bucky Irvin, for stretches of this game, looked dominating. Troy Franklin had an amazing game. Michael Penix Jr. did exactly what we thought he was going to do. He's the Heisman frontrunner for a reason. Another enormous game. Oregon had trouble, for the most part, sticking those receivers all day. I think it's a great game. I think it's the best game we've seen all year. And I think we've been lucky because it's 2 weeks in a row we've gotten to say that. I think the Red River rivalry was great. Oregon and Washington kicked off, said, hold my beer. This was a great game. This is a great football game. The atmosphere, everything. Like, it was from the opening kickoff. It was loud. It was like you got that like nervous feeling. I don't even root for either one of these teams. And I had an interest, in Oregon because I picked them. And I got nervous. I got nervous for Oregon. It was a great football game. Alex, I'm gonna let you go first because these are your boys. And I'm gonna let Cottrell come in and probably, have the last chance to probably stick another dagger in your back because he's going to do it. But I'm going to go to you. The floor is yours, sir. Tell me how you're feeling about your Ducks.
Yeah, first things first, I definitely got to agree. Definitely Game of the Year nominee. It was exactly what we thought it would be. All of it coming down to a missed field goal at the end to win, a back and forth matchup. And, when I look at the stats and I really dial down into it, as you guys know, I'm a stats guy. I like to look into in between the cracks and see what really happened in the game. And just like you said, I do feel like Oregon was the better team in this game. When it came to first downs, Oregon dominated Washington 31-24 when it came to first downs. On third down conversions, Washington was 5 for 11. Oregon was 10 for 16. They were moving the ball. They were having success. They even outgained them by over 130 yards during the game. So every single stat went in Oregon's direction, except for the one that mattered, and that was fourth down conversion. Oregon was 0 for 3. And just like Bill said, I was totally 100% happy with the decision to go for it on the goal line at the end of the first half, due to the fact we were down. Worst case scenario, nothing happens. Best case scenario, we score, and we got the ball at the beginning of the second half. It could have really kept the momentum going. But ultimately, like I said, it was a great game. Dan Lanning is a good coach, but he's a couple of years away from being a great coach because a great coach doesn't give the ball back to Washington there. And if he does give the ball back to Washington there, he pins him inside of his 10 instead of giving it at basically the 50-yard line with the Heisman. It was the Heisman front runner. So there were some questionable moments, but at the same time, I feel like at halftime when they interviewed Dan Lanning and he said that, you got to play to win. The second he said that, he basically told everyone in the country, I'm going for it on fourth down the rest of the day, because that's the kind of confidence he was portraying to the media and to the public. And so once he said that, if he didn't go for it on fourth down and they would have lost, the media would have been talking about it. So I'm okay with him making the decisions, especially because I know next time around he's going to make a different call. And next time around is when it's going to count. I'd much rather be the team that loses this game who gets the second chance next time, because it's harder to beat a team twice in one season. So let's hopefully Oregon can get to that Pac-12 championship and we can make that happen.
Alex, I love what you're saying. Like, I absolutely love it. I think, this is prime. Why do you play the game? You play to win the game. That's what Dan Lanning was trying to do there. I'm personally fine with him being as aggressive as he was. Now, when the Ducks were down 11, I would have taken the 3 points because I want to make a 2-possession game a 1-possession game. Before the half, I was perfectly fine with him not taking the field goal there, because in my mind, what good does it do me? Points are points. I get it. Those 3 points could have been the difference in this game. But why am I making a 1-possession game another 1-possession game, especially when I'm getting the ball back after half is over? So I absolutely love Dan Lanning's confidence in that bunch. I think it says a lot to them. I think that's a team that believes in him. Like, Bo Nix has to have all the confidence in the world that he's going to go out there and make those plays because his coach believes in him. And I actually think, I kind of disagree with you a little bit on this point, Alex. I think the next time he gets put in this situation, he's going to do the exact same thing, and he's going to expect those guys to execute. Now, I'm not saying that, maybe when he's down 11, maybe he takes the 3 there, but I think he's going to continue to be as aggressive as he was and keep going for it, even, and maybe even the Pac-12 championship game with stakes on the line. I think that's just who he is, and he's getting his players to buy into that. So I love that. Cowardly coaching doesn't win you games. Being conservative doesn't win you games. I get it. At points, you got it. At points, you have to take the points. But I'm perfectly fine with him being as aggressive as he was, because, had he not been as aggressive as he was, maybe this game gets a little bit out of hand. Maybe Washington gets the momentum there and, Oregon's offense kind of gets a little stagnant there. So I think that instills confidence in the team. So I love that Dan Lanning was as aggressive as he was. And on the other side of things with Washington, look, I think at this point, like I said it before the game, if Michael Penix Jr. was still your Heisman front runner, in my opinion, that meant that Washington was going to win the game. And, for the first 3 quarters, he looked absolutely incredible. Now, definitely in the second half, Oregon has slowed them down a lot. Ultimately, he did go down and, get the game-winning drive and score the touchdown there. But Michael Penix Jr. is really taking care of business there. And I think, that receiving core is one of, if not the scariest, receiving core in the country. So got to give all the props to Washington there. I do think Washington played one of their better games. For Oregon, that was probably like a B-, C+ game, and they only lost by 3. So that's definitely something that they can, hang their hat on. I 100% agree. It's tough to beat the same team twice in the same season. That's why I picked Oregon last week. Well, not Oregon. That's why I picked Oklahoma last week to beat Texas. I think Texas is the better team, but had Oklahoma beaten them, because I think Texas will beat them the next time around. I think in this case, especially after what I saw from USC, I think this is your Pac-12 championship game. And if that's the case, I would roll, as of right now, I would roll with Oregon to come out on top in that next matchup.
Alex, you said
I don't
something.
know if I trust you.
Cottrell's the king of the swerve. He's the king of the swerve. You gotta watch him.
Listen, though, I don't say things to just, make you upset. I say things what I believe. So last week I picked Washington, and I said it was going to be a 1-point game. I had them 37-36 beating Oregon. I thought it was going to be tight. I just had Washington being the better team at home. and they won. So I'm not hating. I'm just telling you how I feel, and it came true.
It's 2 weeks in a row, Oklahoma and Washington, that you've called. So maybe I should start listening to you.
Hey.
I mean, he does know what he's talking about most of the time.
But Bill, you were going to say something.
No, you said something about Lanning that I thought was very kind of very intuitive. I think you said he's a good coach now. He's a couple years away from probably being a great coach, and I agree with that. I think that's a great statement. I think he's got to grow up quick though, because I think if everything holds true and holds to what we're going to see here, I think we're going to see this game again. I hope we see this game again. I'll watch
Absolutely.
this again in a heartbeat. So I think he might get another crack at him. So he's gotta grow up quick. But that is it for our recaps from last week. It's gonna segue us right into the college football playoff eliminator. No,
you know what that means.
We do. Alex, I'm sorry. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. The O has been moved to the right side.
Got kicked out like Jazz.
Just thrown out.
It could be worse. You could have been Louisville, where you just make a guest appearance, like you sneak in, you get past, and then the bouncer comes up to your section and it's like, hey,
he was there delivering some Uber Eats, and then all right, now you got to go.
We know you got a fake ID, you got us at first, but got to get you out the club, buddy. Sorry.
So you see Oregon over there, Duke, Texas, Utah, Tennessee, they're all over there.
USC, also a new face.
USC hanging out in the top right corner there. The fun part of this is this week, back to back, USC plays Utah. One of them is getting an X after today. Tennessee plays Alabama later today. One of them will be eliminated next week when we come back on the show. And Miami, what are you doing? You sleeping on Miami, bro? They're done.
I'm proclaiming it now too. If Duke beats Florida State, they're getting moved back to the contender side.
I'm
moving them.
We could talk about it.
They're going back.
We're going to talk about that.
You're asleep at the wheel, though, brother.
You're right.
Absolutely.
Hey.
How Miami doesn't have they should have the biggest X through anybody on this side, if I'm being honest.
That it's there. Just imagine that it's there, It's okay. Just we're not even going to act like it's not there. It's there.
But no. 3 teams are getting knocked out next week. 3 teams.
Well, we got to go to the other side. Washington, they have a cakewalk today. Michigan should win. North Carolina should win. Georgia should win. Oklahoma should win.
I'll tell you what, though. If any team, obviously Ohio State, Penn State, one of those teams has to move over.
Yep.
I think outside of them, next team that might move over is Georgia. Losing Brock Bowers is going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt a lot. They will have some. They better
Bill,
get
did
over
you just
it
say
very
that Oklahoma
fast.
had a cakewalk?
Today, they're not playing anybody good.
They're playing UCF.
Yeah, they stink.
And no, their quarterback's back, man. What is it? Jake Reese Plumlee. It's his first game back since being injured on Boise State. He's a difference maker. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm just saying it's not a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination.
What's the spread on that game?
It is 19.5 right now. So we'll cover that. I'll be touching on that later. Okay, later I got you.
I will say next week I think is the game that could potentially trip them up. They got Kansas next week on the road. I think that could be one that gets a little bit interesting. This week, Alex, I'm not going to steal no thunder here, but I think they'll be okay.
Coming off
just
a
wait
bye.
to pick them. Just wait.
Okay. But
it's
this list here, it's dwindling down.
It's dwindling. It's everybody on the left is kind of sitting in first class now. They got a lot of leg room. They can spread out. You only got assigned seats right now. You can sit where you want to. Everybody on the right, they're crammed into coach. Somebody don't have room for their carry on. They got to check it now. People are pissed off, cranky. But there's opportunity. There's opportunity brewing. Ole Miss has a sneaky game today. You got to go down to Auburn. That is. If there was ever ripe for a Lane Kiffin choke job, it would be today down in Auburn.
True. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Auburn got their butt kicked last week, so look for them to come out on fire this week. I bet they had a tough week of practice.
Yep, at home, Jordan O'Hare will be rocking. They do not like Lane Kiffin down there for numerous reasons. That game will be an interesting one to watch. They gave who did Auburn play tough 2 weeks ago?
Georgia.
Yeah, they gave Georgia everything they can handle. They can beat Ole Miss.
And then they gave Bama. Not Bama. They played Georgia, and then they played another team very tough. Like Auburn's had some quality games this year.
They have. So we'll get into all that in a couple seconds here, but this is where we're at right now. We're down to 8.
I think the other thing too, and we're gonna preview this game. I think the winner of Tennessee and Alabama, if it's Bama, I think Alabama has potentially earned that right to go back to that contender side. Like I think
I don't disagree with you. I said it on Wednesday. All of a sudden, and myself included, I buried them 4 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden they're sitting here, 6, 7-1, and this all of a sudden looks like a Nick Saban, great coach job out of nowhere. Jalen Milroe still got miles and miles and miles to go to be a very, very good quarterback. But that being said, he looks drastically better than he did 3 weeks ago. That defense is getting better every week because Nick Saban is going to coach that defense up. And all of a sudden, here we are. They've already beat A&M. Their losses to Texas. It's not even an SEC loss. Does Georgia want to play them? I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's up for conversation. I think Alabama's becoming a very intriguing team to watch all of a sudden. I'll say it that way. So,
and all I'm saying is I feel like Texas, Alabama, and Oregon should still be on the contender side right now, even with the one loss.
This is not the pity party, sir. I'm not sure if you got your
talking
address.
about putting Alabama over on the other side after a 10-point loss to Texas. Come on now.
That was, and then they went off and they beat teams that are over on this pretender side. Like they beat A&M.
Well,
they beat
it's not going to matter.
Now they're
getting an X.
Tennessee.
They're getting an X this week. It don't matter. Let's go.
Hey, listen, Alex,
you're getting fired up.
That's how you earn your way back, though.
Yeah, you have a couple games coming up in a couple weeks. You guys can easily earn your way back to the other side, but you got to lick your wounds over here, and you got to stay here for a little bit.
It's all right. A little bit. All you got to do is wait a week.
It's all right. Time heals all, Alex.
Utah takes care of business against USC, and then you guys go and beat Utah on the road. Guess what? You're gonna be right back with us on the winner side and be a contender again.
I can't wait till NCAA comes out with their football game again, so I can just get on there with Oregon and just crush Michigan and crush Ohio State every night after these shows.
That's going to be your best bet because it's going to be tough sledding for those Ducks in the Big Ten for a while. So you better hope that game's out by next year.
You never know. Bo Nix might come back for his 8th year. Who knows?
Let's go. 8 years the charm.
But all right, that's College Football Eliminator. Again, we have fun with it every week. It's great. I mean, and it's starting to get really intriguing. Like I say, we're down to 8 teams on the left. At least one of them is moving this week. About a game that we're going to talk about very shortly. And then there's other teams on the right that are starting to, build their resume and earn the right to maybe go back up to first class. So we will update that every week like we always do. We always do it right after our reviews. So, but we're going into an upset alert here. Then we're going to go into week 8 previews. And that's pick'em time. And it's tightening up because I just continue to shit the bed. So we are well on our way here. So let's go to upset alert. Alex, I will let you go first this week because you seem like you have 5 of these or something.
Oh, I have a whole list of all of the games that are going to be upsets this week. But I think I am going to go with the one that I do feel the most confident in. And it is a game we are going to be covering here soon and talking about. But you know what? And I'll give you my reasons during that time. But right now I have USC on upset alert at -7 against Utah. I think Utah winning the last 2 matchups has gotten USC's head. I think Notre Dame may have put out the blueprint against Caleb Williams, And that Utah defense is nasty. Their only loss this season, they've only given up 21 points. And last week, their offense looked like they were finally clicking on all cylinders, scoring, 32 against, I know it was a Cal team, but that's the first time all year they've really had the offense clicking since the opening week against Florida. And that's something that I'm happy to see. And that's who I got on upset alert this week, USC going down at home.
Kacho, lay something on me.
So mine is one that we kind of touched on a little bit, and we were talking about Eliminator. I like Auburn, plus 6.5 at home, going up against that Ole Miss team. I think this is a situation where Auburn plays much better at home, and Ole Miss is in a spot where the only road game that they've won so far this season was against Tulane, and that was against their backup quarterback. And so I feel like with this Ole Miss team, them traveling, to Auburn, I think that's going to put them in a tight spot. And we saw what they looked like when they had to go on the road and go to Tuscaloosa to face Alabama. Now, I'm not saying Auburn is Alabama, but again, I just think, Jackson Dart and company is going to struggle on the road at Auburn. And, I think that spread only being 6.5 kind of, to me, it tells you a lot. So I think that Auburn is going to be prime for putting Ole Miss on upset alert.
I'm gonna go down to Tuscaloosa. I think I'm gonna ignore the spread. I know it's up to like 9.5 now. I don't see that. I think I mentioned this on Wednesday as well. I think this is a weird Tennessee team, whereas we used to see a Tennessee kind of be the explosive offense team and kind of outscore people. Their defense is what's getting it done this year. Joe Milton's been very up and down. Offense looks good when he doesn't turn the ball over, but that defense has been very stout. It's a very un-Josh Heupel-like defense. I think they can hang in this game. I know Alabama's got revenge on their mind for last year. We all that viral moment, the kids carried the goalpost and dumped them in the river. It was great. It was nuts. It's what makes college football what it is and makes it amazing. I think they could beat Alabama, though. Not saying they're going to, but I think this has the makings of being a very tight football game. Again, Vegas is usually pretty damn close to being right. I just don't see the 9.5. It's something that stuck out to me right away. I thought that was nuts. Jalen Milroe is not the guy that you can guarantee to throw you 2 touchdowns every week and be consistent. Again, I think we all agree he's looked better, but by no means do I have the confidence that he's going to consistently put up 24 to 30 points. So I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think they keep it close. Maybe have a shot at the end. Maybe break Nick Saban's heart again, but we'll see. Alabama home was a tough beast. It's a totally different animal. So
and I will say, I have to toot my own horn here because so far since we've introduced this upset alert, 2 for 2. We had Buffalo the first week. Last week we gave you Pitt plus 7.5. They won that game outright. So we're going for 3 for 3 here.
All right. Cottrell loves his flowers, bro. Don't let it fool you.
You don't have to pick them.
He comes on here as like the very nice, young, well-mannered young man. No, man loves his flowers. I think he gardens it his part-time. I don't know what he does. I'm pretty sure he does. I don't think he does. I don't think Augie does any kind of landscaping. I think Cottrell plants all the flowers in the house. I completely believe that. Does all of it.
I think if I could,
more people gave me flowers, I'm going to plant them. Like he loves them. He loves his flowers.
I think if I could point out something, I feel like Cottrell's the type of guy who takes that minus 425 bet, and I'm the guy who's like, oh, it's plus 1,200. Let's throw a tenner on it. If we were like talking about picks with your upsets. I'm sorry, Cottrell. I'm just really bitter.
7.5 is a lot. They went outright.
That's true. I'll give you your flowers on that one.
I'm giving you 6.5 this week. You took 9.5, and Alex, what game? What was the spread of the
USC Utah?
It's 7.
7.
So you're right there with me.
Oh, is that 7? Yeah, absolutely. Say that game could be USC by 25, or it could be a low-scoring 14-13 game. So I'm hoping for the latter.
I think it's somewhere
Bill,
in the middle.
I know we're moving ahead here, so I mean, this is what a segue. What a segue, Alex.
Segue Elmore. So here we go.
What can I say?
Is USC home in this game? Oh, they are. All right.
Yes,
all right.
they are.
So they're in the Coliseum. Utah, number 14, going into Southern Cal. Trojans coming off an ass kicking. There's no really other way to say it. Try to keep it clean here, but it is what it is. Licking their wounds. They're going back home to the warm weather. Let's see what Caleb Williams looks like. We just talked about it. This is an eliminator game. The loser of this game is in a lot of trouble. You're talking about, you needing 10 things to go your way, and you got to climb Mount Everest to have a shot if you lose this game. Utah's defense travels. It always does. Cam Rising, Caleb Williams, and the floodgate of a defense that USC has. Lincoln Riley, I think, tries to save face here. I think USC plays better. I don't know how much better that defense plays, though. Really curious to see how Utah is going to defend USC too. So I will defer to our Pac-12 expert Alex Elmore on this one to go first, and I'll let Cottrell come in. Alex, who you got? Why? Who? When? Where? What? Answer all the W's, bud.
Yeah, I mean, this game kind of eerily reminds me of Southern California's game last week against Notre Dame. The difference is that the difference between these two teams' offenses is that as big of a difference as their defenses are with how different they are. Utah allows only 277 yards per game. USC is allowing just under 400. Utah hasn't had the best offensive success this season, especially going into the last 3 weeks. Until last week against Cal, where they were able to score and put some numbers up on the board. I believe they said 32 or 35 points they dropped against Cal. And, like I said, USC offensively, they are second in points, eighth in passing. And with a player like Caleb Williams, you would expect that. But, it truly feels like the offense was exposed last week against Notre Dame. And I feel like the blueprint is kind of out there. I feel like Utah is going to kind of use their own caveats to kind of mix up packages to kind of confuse Caleb Williams to get some pressure on him. But they had under 200 yards passing last week. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We talked about it earlier. He did not have a great game. But on the other side, running the ball, they averaged under 3 yards per carry. So if you're not able to move the ball through the air, you got to at least have a running game. And that running game did not show up last week against Notre Dame. And I don't expect them to show up this week against Utah. Utah's only allowing 67 yards per game on the ground. And I think that they're going to keep USC in the air. And like I said, if Caleb Williams has a week like last week, it's going to be a long day for USC. And then, Bill, did you say earlier that Cam Rising was cleared to play this week, or is he still a game-time decision?
They said he's cleared. He's been cleared for contact. He's been practicing. I have a feeling he's not going to play because I feel like if they knew he was definitely going to play, they would have announced it already. I don't know if there's some gamesmanship in that to where they don't want USC to know before kickoff that he's going to play. But I'm to the point though.
I was just curious
if they don't play him, I like, when is he coming back? I mean, this is, I hate to say this is for their season. So I think if he can go and he's ready to go, I don't know how he doesn't play in this game.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming, like I said, this is a huge game for USC. This is for their season as well if they want to keep their title hopes on the line. And also, Caleb Williams needs a big game if he's going to try to get back into that Heisman talk. Not that I'm sure he's too concerned about that. He's probably more concerned about winning a game. But he definitely has fallen out of favor with Heisman voters after last week's performance. And I think that he's going to try to have a big game this week. I hope Utah's defense can keep him kind of subdued. But also I expect Caleb Williams to have a little bit of a bounce back game. I'm not sure what to expect. Like I said, I have Utah winning this game against USC. The last 2 times they've played, USC has just not looked good against Utah's defense, and Utah's defense is looking even better this year than last year. Like I said, I don't really know what else to say, guys. I mean, if Cam Rising plays, I feel if Cam Rising was supposed to play, I feel like that line would be more around that 3.5 marker, not that 7 points that it's at. But even if they do not have Cam Rising tomorrow, I believe they're going to keep the ball on the ground and short little dump passes, try to control the time. They got to score early because you can't play catch up with USC. But as we know, if Utah gets up early, USC's still in the game. So It's going to be a great it's going to be a great Pac-12 matchup. I do think that Utah is going to pull it out and get the dub outright.
So I just think with Utah, the way that they're looking right now, they rely heavily on their defense, and the defense plays lights out when they're at home. I'm not saying they play bad on the road, but it's not the same way that they play when they're at home. And I think, you talk about the matchup from Utah the past couple years. I think it's different. Cam Rising not being there, I think that's a huge deal. Dalton Kincaid no longer being there, I think that's a huge deal. I think this game's different. And I also think it's different because USC got the doors blown off of them last week. Like, I think there's going to be something said about that USC team and the way that they respond. And, last week they had to travel to South Bend. Now they're coming back home in front of that home crowd. And so I fully expect Lincoln Riley to have those guys ready to go. And they've dropped all the way down to 18. Like, you've seen some of these other one-loss teams. Look at even Utah. Utah lost the game earlier this year that they essentially shouldn't have lost, and they're at 14. So I think being all the way down at 18 with as many undefeated teams as there are and as many, one-loss teams already just in the Pac-12 alone, I think USC has to come out, and they got to come out with a fire under them. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think Caleb Williams is going to go out, and he's going to dominate this football game. The other thing that kind of scares me in this one is that Utah's offense hasn't looked great. Sometimes they look good. Other times they don't. When Barnes is out there at quarterback, they can move the ball efficiently. But then, you're not going to have that same dynamic of in the rushing attack because Johnson is that dual threat quarterback for them. So I just don't know what Utah team I'm going to get. I think their defense is going to come out and be ready to play. But I fully expect Caleb Williams to go out there and put up at least 34 points in this game. And I don't think Utah has the horses to even sniff that number.
I do agree with you. I think how this game starts is wildly important. I think if Utah is allowed to kind of settle into this game and not have to really come out of what they do on offense comfortably and have to, kind of be something that they're not and start throwing the ball to keep pace and stuff like that, then I think there's a chance this ends up in, a very good football game. If USC does come out hot with Caleb and company and they can, score 2 quick touchdowns in the first quarter or something like that, I think it has a chance to get ugly, assuming Cam Rising's not playing. If he does play, I have a little bit more confidence in Utah. But that being said, I liked your point on the ranking thing, and I think it's this. I think they were ranked high because of Caleb Williams and that offense and Lincoln Riley, and I think they get a lot of love, for who they are. And, even though they were winning and they were winning games probably that, they should have been killing people, but they weren't. It's hard to consistently punish a team for winning football games, and then, like we kept saying, like they were begging to get beat. And now that they did get beat, I think people put them down to where they really see them. They see them as a team in the middle, 10 to 20 range that has a great offense with the best quarterback in the country, but a really bad defense that's playing in a really, really tough, deep conference. We'll see. I hope it's a good game. I don't know why I always root for Utah. They're like my favorite, like little engine that could team. I mean, they just play fundamental football. They're not flashy, and they just beat you. I'm a little sour on USC because, like I said, I wasn't happy with Caleb last week. That being said, I think they get it done at home.
We also got to remember the USC's defense. They've given up 42 or more points in 4 straight games. One of those is a subpar Arizona team that took them to triple overtime. It took 3 overtimes for them to take care of it. It was Arizona at home. That's one of the reasons I'm not so confident about USC home game being that big of a difference maker in this game, because that didn't stop them from, like I said, giving up 41 points to a very, very – yes, they are on the up and up, but Arizona was not a good team a few weeks ago when they scored 41 points on USC's defense. And I think Utah is going to win this one.
If I'm giving a score prediction, I got USC winning 41-24.
That's crazy. 41 points against that defense? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think Utah may have a better defense than Notre Dame. Like I said, it's a very close, very similar aspects. Utah has a much better run defense than Notre Dame does, and Notre Dame's slightly better on the in the secondary side of things. but this is a very tough defense. 41 points, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It
So,
is.
We'll see.
It definitely is a lot, and I also think I'm also factoring in the fact that USC just got beat last week. So I'm not saying that the score necessarily looks like it was a 41 to 24 point win, but with USC being where they're at, them being number 18, they're going to have to score as many points as possible to try and get the committee's attention before the official rankings come out. And so I just think they're going to try and score, like I said, as many points as possible.
All right. Well, only time will tell.
Where are we going next? All right, ACC country. This is a big one with a little bit of an asterisk, and I'm going to say that I think me and Cottrell both agree. I'm not sure about Alex. I think Riley Leonard's going to do everything in his power to start this football game. I don't know if he finishes. I don't know how he looks. I don't know what his pain tolerance is. I know he's a tough kid. If you saw the end of the Notre Dame game, horrible high ankle sprain with. Was it the last play of the game, Cottrell?
Their last offensive possession.
Their
last offensive play, yeah.
It was fourth down, right?
Yeah, and then he fumbled and
the ball back. Yeah, that's right. So 30 seconds to go of the game. He didn't play last week against NC State. I'm sure they're gonna shoot him up with the happy juice and they're gonna tape the hell out of that ankle and he's gonna try to play. Going down to Tallahassee, play Florida State. Keon Coleman, Travis and the boys, number 4th ranked team in the country. They've had their shaky moments. They've had spurts in games where they have not looked good. They've had a bunch of breakdowns defensively. They just haven't really played a team yet that was capable of really taking advantage of it. And if we're being honest, they should have lost the Clemson game. But that's a different discussion for a different day.
Cowardly coaching.
Not wrong. Duke is a very senior-laden team. I think they started 18 seniors, something like that. It's some crazy number. Very experienced, very well coached. Mike Elko. A lot of people are circling this game. I will tell you this. Me and Cottrell had the same exact thought when we saw it. The spread on this game is disrespectful. I will say I think some of it has to do with Riley Leonard not being 100%, and I get that. 14.5 points on this, I think, is nuts. I think this is a very close football game. I will go as far to say if Riley Leonard was 100% healthy and I knew what I was getting from him, I might even pick Duke outright in this game based upon what I saw in Notre Dame. This isn't like one of those like feel-good story, try-hard teams that, kind of like played Clemson on, the beginning of the year and caught them by surprise. Because I was one of those people that thought that. And then I watched Notre Dame game. They're a damn good football team, and they're a tough football team. This is not a team that's going to go down to Tallahassee, in my opinion, and be intimidated whatsoever. I think this is a really close football game. Cottrell, what do you think?
So I said it on Wire to Wire, and I'm going to say it again here. Bill kind of already alluded to it. I think 14.5 points is just downright disrespectful. I think that's the perfect word for it. Because even with Riley Leonard's injury, I absolutely think he's going to try and give it a go. And I'm gonna give it a basketball comparison here. I'm gonna go Willis Reed. I think just him, the presence of him going out there and being on the field, I think that's gonna bring a spark to that Blue Devils team. And I know Florida State is phenomenal. They've been clicking on all cylinders. Offense looks great. Defense has been playing well. I got Duke winning this game. Give me the 14.5 points, and I'm taking Duke to win this one outright. I think this is potentially what you're going to see in that ACC championship game. Just a little foresight there. But I think Duke wins this game because I've said it before. It's tough to be an undefeated team going into November. So I fully expect Duke to give them all that they can handle. I think Riley Leonard is going to be a gamer, and he's going to fight like hell to make sure Duke is in a great spot. And I think that's going to give that team that momentum boost they need to go out on the road and take care of business against Florida State.
Well, according to sources, we don't know if Riley Leonard is going to be playing. And kind of like Bill had said earlier, besides me, I don't quite agree with you guys. If anybody knows ankle injuries, I would have to say I am on the foremost expert of ankles. I've been someone who has broken their ankle before. All right.
I was
So
there when it
as
happened.
you were there as a previous expert. All right. Look, and all jokes aside, if Riley Leonard plays, I think it's a mistake, not only for the season, but possibly for his future. I was watching the Pat McAfee show earlier, and they had a specialist come in, and he said that if he were to come back, this would be the earliest possible return date for a high ankle injury. But they were saying how that could also reduce his explosiveness, his ability to change directions at quick pace. And honestly, even though Duke has only allowed 4 sacks this season, and they are able to keep him upright, and not allow him to get contacted too often, I think it's not worth the season. Because even if they lose this game, they still are in the hunt for the ACC championship as number 16 in the country, and with the 1 loss already, they're not looking for the college football playoff. So I think they should look at the rest of their season. Maybe don't reveal Riley Leonard to Florida State now. Save him for when they play him in the ACC championship game. Let them have a little bit of a strategic edge that way. So I'm going to talk about this game as if Riley Leonard's not going to play, because that's the decision I would make if I was him. But like I said, luckily for him, Duke's offense last week still looked good, scoring 24 points against NC State. They averaged 400 yards a game. Last week, they only got 300 yards, mostly on the ground. So Riley Leonard is a huge factor with them gaining yards and scoring points. So that will be a factor. And I expect a lot of short dump passes mixed in with the ground and pound to control the clock and prevent turnovers and giving Florida State those extra possessions. And like I previously said, Duke's got the number 4 scoring defense in the country, only allowing under 10 points per game. But where they've struggled is getting to the quarterback. They only have 14 sacks in the 6 games so far this season. And against a quarterback like Jordan Travis, with an O-line that's only allowed 7 sacks all year, that's going to be a problem. And so far this season, Travis has thrown for 1,482 yards, 13 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and he's quietly on a lot of people's Heisman lists. So for me, the main difference is going to be, can Duke's defense get a push, force him out of the pocket, and actually get to him and cause 2 or 3 sacks this game? Because if they're unable to do so, I feel like he's going to have too much time back there. He's going to be able to pick him apart. And with a wide receiver like Keon Coleman and a running back and the running game that Florida State has, I'm actually taking Florida State at minus 14.5. And the more confident bet that I'd be making is the under of 49.5 would be the more confident pick. But I am picking Florida State to cover the points.
So we are on quite literally different ends of the spectrum there. I love it.
We are. This will be a fun one to see how this plays out here later this afternoon.
Alex, I do think one thing is kind of interesting, though, what you said. I don't necessarily know if college football playoff is out of their reach, though. Like, they got Florida State here. You win this game, you're going to be probably back in the top 10. You got to go up against Louisville later, which isn't, a great, win. But you also got to face North Carolina. And if they're undefeated at the time you play them, then you're probably sneaking into that 6, maybe 5, and hoping some teams ahead of you take some losses. So I definitely think it's possible for them to get back in the mix. So I don't necessarily agree that they're not playing for the college football playoff. Now, going into the season, that 100% I'm sure wasn't the goal. But at this point now, if you beat Florida State, you're essentially in the driver's seat to sneak back into the college football playoff discussion.
Get very interesting if the end of the year you have a 1-loss. You, in theory, could have a 1-loss Big 12, Big 10, ACC, and Pac-12 champion. And one of them for sure is not getting in.
Well, I mean, let's be honest with everyone here. The Big Ten, if the Big Ten has 1-loss champ, they're for sure getting in. And if Texas is that 1-loss team, they're going to get in over another 1-loss conference championship team. So it's going to come down to who that 1-loss Pac-12 team
man. I hate to say it, man. The Big 12 is the weakest conference this year.
It is.
I agree. I don't disagree with you. I know the Texas bias, and I get all that, and I 100% agree with you. I know how it works. I just think it's going to be.
If you're comparing resumes, you're 100% right.
there's just no way a one-loss Texas is going to have a better resume than a one-loss Oregon or Washington, a one-loss Duke or Florida State or somebody like that, or a one-loss Penn State, Michigan, or Ohio State. Like I just don't see it. Only team they're going to play that's. I mean, I get it. They have the Alabama win, but it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for us. It's going to be great for us. But somebody's there's a chance that happens, and then somebody's heart's going to get broken.
Won't be one of us.
Then we're going to do a coin flip. Who gets in, guys? Heads or tails?
I just love Cottrell. He's like, well, me and Bill don't have to worry about it if it's our team. So
I mean, that's just the reality. Alex, you're going to be on the same boat next year. You're a one-loss Big Ten champion. Hey, you're for sure submitting your claim in the playoffs. So
you got 8 teams getting it next year too. So
here's my argument though. Here's my argument though about the Big Ten championship being like their winner being able to get in over like a one-loss Pac-12 champion is Oregon beating a Washington or Oregon beating a one-loss USC in the Pac-12 championship. That's a hell of a lot better of a resume builder than Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan beating Iowa or quarterbackless Wisconsin. So I'm just saying that title game could actually hurt them.
Wisconsin. Only thing I watched, I was ranked. That's all I'm telling you. And I'm not saying they should be, but they are.
I agree with you. Like I'm not saying you're wrong, or I'm not saying that's how it. I'm not saying it shouldn't be like that.
That's all you ever say, Cottrell.
You factor in Penn State being where they are right now, Michigan being where they are right now, and Ohio State being where they are right now. If those are the only like one loss, teams, and then they go out and put on a thrashing in that Big Ten championship game, how we would expect them to do, how the East always does in that game. There's no way, even with the resume that Washington, Oregon, any of those, USC, there's no way that they would get rated above any of those 3 teams, just because there is prestige behind it, and it's not necessarily fair, but I mean that's just the way it is.
The whole brand and prestige thing is going to benefit both Michigan and Ohio State, just like it would Texas. I mean, they are 2 of the top 5 or 6 biggest brands in all of college football. They draw people, watch them when they're on TV. They're not passing up that money. And I'm telling you, as a Michigan fan, I don't agree with it. I don't like it. But I'm just. It's just kind of like that's just the way things are, type thing.
And I almost think, too, the one thing that's kind of – and we're kind of getting off track here – but the one thing that's kind of like that could be a potential issue for whoever comes out of the Pac-12 being no longer next year, maybe that influences some things. Like, hey, the Pac-12 is not even going to be here anymore next year. Let's get the playoff money to one of these other conferences and one of these other schools and, kind of go from there. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that committee meeting.
I hate to say it, but that's a really, really, really good point. It's a little bit of a tinfoil hat thing, but I think there's some credence to it as well. And I'll tell you the other thing that's going to hurt. The Rose Bowl is one of the semifinals this year. They are not passing up the chance to send Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State out to that game. They're just not. There's no shot in hell a Big Ten team is not going one of the college football semifinal games out in the Rose Bowl. It's just going to happen. But we're getting sidetracked. So we will get to talk about this a ton because I believe is next week the first week they come out, or is it the following week?
I think it's next week. Next week. Yeah, I think we'll be able to get it next week.
Yeah, so next Tuesday, I think it's the first. That was when they come out. So that will be we'll have a ton to talk about next weekend. But let's go down to the old SEC country. We talked about this game already a little bit. Tennessee Volunteers, a defensive Tennessee team this year versus Alabama. Always good on defense. Offense is slowly coming along, I guess. Saban's coaching them up, whatever you want to call it. I think there's a lot of intrigue in this game. Jalen Milroe versus Joe Milton. Flip a freaking coin. I couldn't tell you. I don't, Joe Milton is literally the definition of a Jekyll and Hyde quarterback. When he's right, he's fun to watch. He is a very explosive, gifted, athletic kid. When he's off and he's wrong, he will single-handedly lose you a football game. I've seen it. Kid started at Michigan. I've seen it. He's done it at Tennessee. That's why he lost his job last year. Jalen Milroe has looked better. I think he's still miles away from being what anybody in Alabama, including Nick Saban, wants him to be, but he looks better. Both these defenses are good. I think this game's a little bit lower scoring than people think it's going to be. Alex, I'll let you go first on this one. What do you got here?
Yeah, so a little fun statistic. Tennessee has not beaten Alabama 2 years in a row since, I believe, 03 and 04. So it's a long time coming, almost 20 years now since they've beaten Alabama 2 years in a row. And Tennessee is not the same Tennessee that beat Alabama last year. This team is going to run the ball down your throat, and they've shown that while averaging 231 yards per game on the ground. And in fact, their lone loss this season to Florida is the only game where they had 100 yards rushing against Florida, and that's the reason that they lost. They were unable to get things going on the ground. But even in that game, they still managed to rush the ball almost 40 times, even being trailing the entire time. So this Tennessee offense really only goes if their ground game is going. So that's a fun thing. That's going to be a fun thing to watch with Alabama's defensive front trying to prevent that rushing attack of Tennessee. But my main concern with Tennessee is Joe Milton. They don't like to put the ball in his hands in big-time situations. And over the last 2 games, he's thrown 3 interceptions and has only completed over 60% of his passes 1 out of those 4 games. So I'm not expecting a lot of passing success against this Alabama secondary, but I am expecting them to be able to run the ball quite well and quite efficiently. So I'm expecting a game plan of steady dose of Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Dylan Sampson, who are all averaging over 5.5 yards per carry on the ground. And I expect them to have a heavy dose of rushes. Heavy dose of rushing attack, and I expect them to hit that 200 yards rushing mark in this game. And that's going to be a big reason why I make the pick I do later in this pick right here. But on the Alabama side of things, they're averaging 30 points per game, but they've only scored over 30 points twice this season. So that number is a bit inflated. And we are all in agreement here that there may not be an undefeated team in college this season. We talked about that early in the season, and therefore every week is a must-win game for Tennessee and Alabama. And if you look at what they've done for us lately, Alabama has not really impressed. They barely pulled out a 6-point win against a depleted A&M team. And last week, they only scored 3 points in the second half against an Arkansas team that's 2-4 and almost lost that one late in the game. So I'm not sure what to expect from Alabama this week and what kind of offense and if they're going to be able to have success. But Alabama needs someone to step up offensively to help Milroe out. In the whole season, they've only had 2 games with someone over 100 rushing yards and 1 game with a receiver over 100 yards. Someone has got to be able to step up and help him make plays because Tennessee is going to be rushing at every single angle. And to me, the difference is going to be the Alabama offensive line. They've given up 31 sacks this season, averaging 4.5 sacks per game, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Tennessee has 2 of the best defensive linemen in the country with Tyler Barron and James Pierce Jr., each combining for 11 sacks on the season. I think they're going to get great penetration, each having a sack in this game. And I have Tennessee covering the 8.5 for us, so 9.5 point spread in Tuscaloosa.
Cottrell, take it away.
So how do you beat this Alabama team? You limit the big play. If Jalen Milroe is not getting that 40, 50, 60-plus yard play, that Alabama offense is pretty stagnant. And they have been running the football somewhat effectively. I will give them credit there. But if it's me, I just saw what Arkansas did last week. Jalen Milroe was 10 for 21. But when they absolutely needed him to go out there and make a play, he did. And I got to give him all the credit in the world for that. But how Bama was able to move the ball on Arkansas, they got the big play. And so I think for Tennessee, the key factor is going to be limiting that big play. And I think on the other side of the ball for Tennessee, Joe Milton is going to have to get the ball out of his hands because that I think that Alabama defensive line is starting to find their stride. Alabama has been rushing the passer very effectively, but I also feel like Alabama is in a position right now where they've borderline been begging to get beat for 2 weeks now. They had a subpar performance against A&M that Alex alluded to. Arkansas, we just talked about it. KJ Jefferson and company gave them all they can handle. That's a 2-5 Arkansas team who has looked horrible pretty much all season. And, I get it. It's the revenge factor. And so I know this game, they've probably had this game circled on their calendar at this point for 365 days. So I'm picking Alabama to win this one. But I think this is going to be a dogfight. I definitely like the under in this one. I don't know if this game gets over 40 points. I think this is just going to be one of those ugly 20-13 Alabama, Nick Saban, wonders where he pulls the game out with coaching and they can run the ball and run the clock out. But I think Tennessee gives them all they can handle because Bama, to me, I know I said that I think they should be moved over to the contender side just because of, who they've beaten since they took their L. Bama hasn't shown me anything to prove that they're back. They survive in advance, give them all the credit in the world, but I think this is going to be a rocky game for them.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think again, I mentioned it, in my preview. I think it's a lower scoring game than people think. I agree with Cottrell as well. 2016, 21-16, 23-16, somewhere in that area is where I think this is. I think both defenses are going to play well. And again, I think you're going to see two quarterbacks that struggle with consistency. And when you play against good defenses like that, you have turnovers, you have a lot of 3-and-outs, you have a lot of bad plays. Offenses are not going to get any kind of rhythm. Leads to a kind of clunky game. I have them on upset alert. Ultimately, like I said, I think Alabama prevails. I don't think they cover. I don't. I think 10. It's 9.5, but so you got to win by 10. I think that's nuts. So I am going to go with Alabama pulling out a close one. I don't think they cover. And kind of like Cottrell said, they're going to be sitting there 7-1, banging on the door of the top 10. Might be in the top 10. Actually, they probably will be because somebody's going to fall out. So, well, maybe not. Depends who wins or loses. But, hey, let's talk about that game because that's what we're here for today. Number 7, Penn State Nittany Lions. Could be the last week their Gene's team. Traveling to Ohio State. Number 3 ranked Buckeyes. I'm not gonna lie. I really wasn't comfortable when I picked this game Wednesday, and I've gone back and forth on this game no less than 4 or 5 times between Wednesday and this morning. I see a clear way the game plays out for both these teams to win, and I usually can't do that. I think on paper, I think Ohio State is still the better football team. I think a lot of the things that Penn State does are the things in the past that have caused Ohio State trouble. This is also a bigger rivalry than I think a lot of people realize. These two teams play each other tough all the time, for the most part. There's been a couple of Ohio State blowouts mixed in there, but there's been a couple big Penn State upsets as well. If I have to go down to the coaches, I promise you, it pains my soul to say this, but I've also been very honest in the past. I think Ryan Day's a good coach, and I think James Franklin stinks. So if it comes down to coaching, I'm taking Ryan Day all day. No pun intended.
Why do you think Brian Franklin stinks?
Because he couldn't coach himself out of a wet paper bag, bro.
Have you seen James Franklin in crunch time?
Go watch any close game with.
We don't get a lot of Big Ten out here.
In the fourth quarter, that's about to change. But go watch any fourth quarter game where they're either up by 3 or down by 3, and watch how he coaches, and then get back to me. That's your homework assignment for next week, Alex. Because I promise you, all you gotta do is go to YouTube and punch in bad James Franklin coaching, and you'll get the video that'll explain everything me and Cottrell are trying to say right now.
Honestly, you don't even have to do that. All you gotta do is you go to the box score, look at Penn State, see the games they lost. If it was 1 possession or less, go to probably like 6, maybe 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. See Penn State's offense, see what is drawn up there, and you'll know exactly. It's pretty much like clockwork every game. It's just He's gonna do something that just
Doesn't
folds
make
and
sense.
folds like laundry. And then what makes it even better though is that you're gonna see him on the sideline. He's gonna have this blank, just stare, confused look, and that's how the play calling looks. He's gonna be, hands on his knees, glasses, looking up, and just confused. That's just who he is.
So
I have to watch that heavily today.
that is Alex. That is your homework assignment for next week. You go dig into this and then get back to us.
And then when it happens,
I know what you're doing. Don't do that. Don't do that.
when it happens,
I've already got messages about this. We're not going to talk about it today. I promise you, we'll talk about it next week because there's I think more stuff needs to come out. I obviously feel very strongly about it one way. I think it's BS, but I'm not going to get into it today. We're going to let this play out for the next week or so because I do want us to be able to have a discussion about it. So we will talk about it next week. I promise. We're not avoiding it.
But Alex, I will say once it happens later on today, you're going to see me send. It's going to be the video of Shannon Sharp on First Take when he's like, basically like I told you so, but he gives you the point. He's like, you see it? You see what happened? You're going to know exactly when it happens.
It is. I'm happy. This is the third week in a row that we're probably going to have a game of the year candidate because I believe that's where we're at. I don't want to say too much because it is Cottrell's team, and I do want him to have the bulk of this. But I think who actually ends up suiting up and playing here in about a half hour is going to matter. I think some of it's still up in the air. And ultimately, I think you have two very good defenses. You have two very good defensive coordinators, guys that are aggressive. Manny Diaz for Penn State. Jim Knowles actually kind of changed his approach a little bit this year, which seems to be working for Ohio State. I'm sure Cottrell will touch on that. Ultimately, I think it comes down to one of these kids under center makes a big play at the right time. And I really believe that. I think it's either Kyle McCord has that moment again, like he did in Notre Dame when he threw that, even though they were in prevent, but he threw that back shoulder throw right up the seam, exactly where it had to be, that nobody could get. Nobody could get a finger to or deflect or catch or anything. Got Ohio State to the one, plunged in and won the game. Or it's going to be Drew Aller, the guy that's been, praised and by myself as well. Looks like the next kind of really big, up and coming, great Penn State, and I think he's gonna be a good pro prospect. He's got size, he's got a cannon of an arm, great arm talent. I think it comes down to which one of them makes more plays. I really believe that. But I'm gonna go to Cottrell first. I'm gonna let him have his 5 minutes in the sun here. He can sit there out in the sun with his flowers all around him and talk all these pretty things about Ohio State because that's what's coming. But we'll do that. Alex, you clean it up. Give me your prediction at the end.
So I think, obviously you mentioned injuries being a big part of this game. When it's all said and done, I expect Travion to suit up, play. Mayan, suit up, play. Emeka, I think he's going to suit up. I think he's going to give it a go. If he tweaks anything, he's going to be the one that gets pulled early. I think he probably has the shortest leash. And then Denzel Berg, I don't expect him to play in this game. So I ultimately think that Ohio State is the better team in this one. And I think, Drew Aller, this is his first true tough test. He has to travel to the Horseshoe. And I honestly feel more confident about this game now than I did at the beginning of the season. And the reason for that being is that I was fully expecting this Penn State team to look more explosive on offense. And, they've been taking care of business. They've been getting wins. But I was expecting Drew Aller to be out there throwing rockets to guys like, Dante Cephas and company in that receiving core. And that just hasn't been the case. Obviously, they're talented in the backfield. They got a great duo of running backs there. So if they can run the ball effectively, they're going to be in this game. But I actually like Ohio State to win this one 31-21. I think it's a two-possession game. It's going to be a great game. But I think Drew Aller makes a crucial, whether it be a like a interception or a strip sack. I think that's going to be the thing that really turns this game around. I think it's going to be close at halftime. Maybe you have a, 17-14 game where Ohio State sneaks in the field goal at the end. But I ultimately have Ohio State winning 31-21. I think McCord plays mistake-free football. Obviously, he starts off every game pretty much slow. So got to find ways to put the ball in your playmakers' hands and just let them go to work. I think that's what he's going to do. So I like Ohio State 31-21.
Alex.
All right.
Give me a non-Big Ten point of view.
So kind of like Bill said at the beginning, he went back and forth all week. I've been going back and forth with this game all week as well. One thing that's really kind of impressed me looking through the numbers is, the Penn State defense and their rushing defense only allowing 72.5 yards per game. That is a stat that honestly caught me by surprise. I didn't realize that their front seven was able to get that much penetration and eliminate the rushing attack of another team like that. But in the last couple of games, without TreVeyon Henderson and Williams, they've been out. They've been averaging right around 2 yards per carry in the last 2 games combined. Last week, they averaged 3.9, but against the Maryland team, they averaged less than 2 yards per game. And I expect those struggles, no matter who plays today, to continue against that Penn State defense. And I do see Penn State trying to force Kyle McCord to kind of play the hero and be the reason that Ohio State wins today. And for some reason with Kyle McCord, I can't get the Notre Dame game out of my head. A lot of people forget about this because they ended up winning. But just 2 passes before that game-winning touchdown, he threw a pass that should have been picked off, and Ohio State should be a one-loss team right now. So will he get lucky again, and will he get a dropped interception that helps him kind of win, or will kind of karma catch up, and will Penn State's defense kind of play out and dominate the game like I expect them to? I do expect this game not to be high-scoring at all. I'm very confident in the under. What was the under at right now? It's at 45.5 points. A lot of people would think that that's a little bit of a scary under. I'm still taking it. That Penn State defense is legitimate. Ohio State's already played in a big game, and we were able to see what that offense was doing against a defense that I don't think is as good as Penn State's in Notre Dame. And they only were able to score 17 points. Penn State, on the other hand, played against who we constantly talk about is an amazing defense in Iowa. And they dropped 31 points? Yeah, 31-0. They dominated Iowa. I don't care about that 0 part. I care about the 31. They had their backups in early or late in the third quarter, and that game was well in hand. And if they're able to move the ball like that against a tough defense like Iowa, I think they're going to have really good success against Ohio State. But and the matchup that I'm really excited and looking forward to is Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Kalen King in the secondary of Penn State. Last year, Kalen King had 15 passes defended, 3 interceptions. He's only had 1 pass defended this year, but that's because guess what? They're staying the heck away from him. They're not going his direction. But I expect that to change today, and I expect it to be an epic battle between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kalen King. I don't know who's going to win that battle, but I'm excited to see that play out throughout the game. And I do think I have Penn State winning outright in this one because of my lacking confidence of Kyle McCord, and I think he's going to make a decision late in the game like he did in Notre Dame that resulted in a dropped interception. I think this time it's not going to play out in Ohio State's favor.
I will say I love your point with the Marvin Harrison Jr. Kalen King, matchup, because if Emeka doesn't play, that becomes very interesting because then it does really get to where is Kyle McCord going to go with the ball. Granted, he's got other, the receiver room in Ohio State is deep, like we all know it. I'm not even going to let Cottrell sit here and brag about it. I don't want to hear it. But
deepest group on our team.
Yeah, we know. But that being said, it's guys that you might not have the same chemistry with. It gets interesting. I'm gonna say this. I don't like flip flopping, so I'm not going to. My head is telling me one thing. My gut is telling me another. My gut is usually right, and I'm going to go against it on this one. I will say this. I think Ohio State pulls this game out somehow. I said it on Wednesday. I don't know how. I think the quarterback play is going to be extremely important. I think if TreVeyon can play and can run the ball, or at least have some semblance of a consistent run game, that where they can run play action off it, I think it's huge for Kyle McCord. The only thing that I will say that I'm going to switch from Wednesday is this. I think Ohio State wins the game. I don't think they cover. The over-under is 45. That puts you like a 24-21 type game, which is exactly what I think this is. My official pick is going to be Ohio State. I will tell you this. My confidence that Penn State can go in and beat them and pull off this upset is dramatically higher than it was Wednesday. I said it on Wednesday. I think they do things that have given Ohio State fits in the past. And I think Alex brought up a great point. I think Penn State's defense is better than Notre Dame's, and I think their offense is better than Notre Dame. I think they do certain things that Michigan has done in the past that is given them problems. My problem is, it's also what Cottrell said. This offense has not shown me anything yet to where it has the ability to make the explosive play, which is what I think ultimately they're going to have to do to win this football game. Not saying they can't. I'm just saying they haven't shown it yet. We'll see. It's a great game. I will tell you this. I'm nervous for it, and neither one of these are my teams. I mean, Penn State is my home team. Don't get me wrong. People ask me all the time, why do you hate Penn State? I don't hate Penn State. Half of my family went to Penn State. I grew up with Penn State. My best friend from high school went to Penn State, played at Penn State. I have a million friends that went there. I root against Penn State 1 week a year, and that's when they play Michigan. If not, I never want to see Penn State do badly. I've been on record with that numerous times. Go ahead.
No, Bill, you're in the middle of the thing.
No, I'm nervous to watch this game, and I'm nervous from a Michigan point of view, because I am curious to see what both these teams are going to look like, because I play both of them the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I will be tuning in very intently here in about 18 minutes.
Alex, I know you got something to say here, but I knew this was gonna come around again, and so I'm glad I kept it in my memory bank, because it's funny now that Notre Dame is the measuring stick here. When I remember 2 weeks ago, you told me that Maryland had a better offense than Notre Dame, and you told me that Maryland was a better team than Notre Dame. And I saw Ohio State go out there and limit that Maryland offense to 17 points. And I saw them put up 38 points against that team. So what was it about that game that Kyle McCord didn't show you for you to be as confident as you are in Penn State?
Here's the thing. Maryland scored more points on Ohio State than Notre Dame did, therefore better offense. Boom. Just kidding on that point. But in all seriousness,
it's a good comeback.
Hey, they did score more points. I'm just saying. But no, honestly, the difference in that game was Kyle McCord was literally like, chuck it up. Marvin Harrison Jr. is down there somewhere. There were literally 2 or 3 plays. He just chucked it up in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s direction, and Marvin Harrison Jr. made a play. And I feel like Ryan Day drew up and said, you know what? Throw it down the left side. Marvin Harrison Jr. will grab it somewhere. I feel like that's how he drew it up. So I still have no faith in Kyle McCord, even after that game. And I'm going to stick to that, receipts or not. A blind man finds a doorway every once in a while, all right?
I just know every time you get a chance that we preview Ohio State, you pick against them. So you're low-key a
That's
Buckeye
true.
hater.
I'm bound to be right, though.
I see that. You're Buckeye hater here.
Well, here's what I can say since you brought up Notre Dame again. All right. I feel like in that game, one thing that we talked about was that Audric Estime did not get the carries that he should have gotten. He only got 15 carries in a game that was a 3-point game. You should have been trying to control that ground game, and only getting 15 carries to your lead back is absolutely crazy. I do not see Penn State making that mistake with Katron Allen. He's been averaging over 20 carries per game in games where he has to. The last couple weeks, he's only had 15 carries combined, so he should be well rested and ready for this game with no injuries. I have them giving Katron Allen at least 22 to 25 carries, and that steady attack on the ground is what's I think is going to honestly break down the Ohio State defense. And they don't need to be flashy. 4.5 yards a carry, that'll get the job done.
All right. Listen, we're going to get this one out of the way quick. This is a noon kickoff. So this kicks off in about 15 minutes. It does suck. I'm
locked in.
I know you're locked in, but again, our game tonight should not be 7:30. This should be the 7:30 game. I hate this new TV package. I hate that
big noon kickoff.
See, here's the thing. I don't mind the big noon kickoff because I actually think I like listening to Joel Klatt and
Gus,
and Gus do the. So I'm glad they have this game, but I don't know why they can't have this game at 7:30. That's what annoys me. So like we're gonna
Fair
play
enough.
at 7:30. We're gonna be at NBC. Like blah blah blah. Like this is the primetime game. This game should be 7:30 tonight. It shouldn't be Michigan State. Like it, and I hate the new TV deal and the flexing, and this station gets, this choice first and blah 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 blah. It's just it's annoying because they've dropped. I mean, ESPN's dropped the ball this year with other games and so forth and so on. So
we've harped on that.
We have, but we got 14 minutes to go. We got to get into pick 'em so we can get out of here on time and let everybody get ready for the 12 kicks. Things have tightened up here drastically because my ass has gone on a cold streak. So me and Cottrell are tied. I still hold the old lead in Superdog. Alex is I mean, he's lurking. He's lurking in the bushes. He is he's at least around right now. He's around. He's catching back up. So Alex, I will let you go first. Cottrell, you can go second, and I will close us out here.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So I had a few games I was picking between, but these are my strongest picks for the week. Right now, I do have UCF at Oklahoma game. Right now, the spread is 17.5. When I first initially looked at it, it was at 19.5, which I felt a little bit more comfortable with. However, I am going to go ahead and take UCF with John Reese Plumlee making his return. He's been out a few weeks with an injury that he sustained against Boise State, and him at quarterback is definitely a difference maker. He's, like I said, last season threw for over 2,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. He looks solid, and he's been able to keep the ball in the hands of UCF this season when he's playing. But again, he hasn't played in a few weeks, but he is a difference maker. On the other side of things, Dylan Gabriel is playing his old team. I do have UCF pulling within under 17.5 points today. Like I said, UCF's offense has looked good all season, and I expect them to keep it close against Oklahoma. Next up, I will have South Carolina at Missouri. I have Missouri covering the 7-point spread that they have against South Carolina right now. Earlier in the season, I was extremely high on South Carolina and Spencer Rattler. I've even picked them earlier this year to, as underdogs to take the win. And I've just lost all faith in the team. That defense looks absolutely atrocious. And Brady Cook has been on fire the last few weeks, and I expect him to continue rolling with that and take the game. I have them actually winning by 14. So if you feel like doing alternate spreads, 2 touchdowns would be my ultimate pick. My third pick is Rutgers against Indiana. I do have Rutgers covering the 5-point spread at Indiana. Indiana's kind of gotten beat up the last couple of weeks, and Rutgers' run game has really impressed me this season. They're not really a high fly offense, but the quarterback play has been fantastic, limiting turnovers, and that running attack has been fantastic. Now it's time for the Superdog. I have featured Penn State in this feature quite a few times, but not today. Today it is Bill's turn. I'm taking Michigan State plus 24.5 against Michigan. The game is at Michigan State. Michigan State is having an absolutely terrible season. But here's the thing about this Michigan State team is this is their bowl game. If these kids are going to get up for any game on the schedule this season, it's going to be this game today. And 24 points is a lot against a rival, whether that rival is down or not. I've seen too many times in the Oregon State series where Oregon's been a 25-point favorite and they've lost that game. Rivalry games are different, and I think Michigan State's players are going to get up for this game, and it's going to be a lot closer to that 24-point spread.
Fake rivalry. It's not even a real one. Michigan doesn't care about Michigan State.
Yeah. Thank you, Cottrell.
Michigan State cares, and that's all that matters.
Michigan State's like
the ex-girlfriend. You still got to listen to their opinions, right?
He's like the little cousin that always wants to fight you, and you just kick him over and like get away from me.
Michigan State's little brother for a reason.
So I'll run through my picks here real quick because I gave them out on Wednesday. I got James Madison minus 3.5 at Marshall. That James Madison team is on fire. I think they take care of business on the road in West Virginia against Marshall. Second game I like the under 34.5. I like the over 34.5. Air Force at Navy. Air Force is a team that averages 37 on their own. I get it. This is a rivalry matchup. You know, these two academy schools going up against each other. But I think Air Force takes care of business there, and I think they put up a lot of points. Last game, I like that Duke plus 14.5 at Florida State. I already told you guys there's something in me that just makes me feel like Duke's going to win this game outright. I think that 14.5 marker is very disrespectful. I think they take care of business there. And then my super dog. On Wednesday, I said I hated the pick. Now I love the pick, and I almost want to pick them outright. Give me Washington State plus 18.5 at Oregon. Cam Ward's going to go into Eugene and put up numbers. I don't care that Oregon just lost last week. I like that Washington State team to get back on track. And I got Cam Ward outperforming Bo Nix in this one. I think Oregon still wins, but I got Cam Ward at the end of the day putting up better numbers than Bo Nix. So give me the 18.5 and take that to the bank. And, those are my picks for the week.
It's homecoming, bro. They ain't losing. Homecoming.
Wow. All right. I like the the very young rivalry that we have between iBlack and College Control on this show. As usual,
hey, Alex started it.
It's true. You're not wrong.
I picked Washington because I thought they were the better team. And then I got to hear about Maryland. They're 20-point dogs and winning outright. And now I got to hear Penn State and not trusting McCord. And I'm sick of it. Okay, I'm putting my foot down.
I mean, deep down, you don't really trust Kyle McCord, though.
Hey, that's fine. But if the measuring stick,
I just want on record. That's it.
If the measuring stick was Maryland, then let the damn measuring stick be Maryland. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, my 4 picks this week ended up being very, 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 very interesting now. So, the same ones from Wednesday. I agree with Cottrell on 2 of them. I'm going to go Duke plus 14.5 at Florida State. I think Riley Leonard's a gamer. I think he's going to go out there and play till his foot falls off. I think he keeps Duke in the game. Again, I don't think this moment is going to be too big for those kids. They're all seniors. They've all played there a couple years. Alex just mentioned something about the Michigan State game about being a Super Bowl. This is Duke's season right here for the most part. They win this game. They have a very clear trajectory to probably check off a lot of goals they set before the end of the year. They lose. They it's kind of like rolling back down to the bottom of the mountain and having to climb back up. So it becomes their season can go 2 drastically different ways here. So and on top of that, just like Cottrell said, I think the spread's disrespectful. So I'm going Duke plus 14.5. My next 2 picks, I'm going to go directly against Alex. So this is going to be an interesting week. Could be a shakeup in the in the standings, or Alex might get kicked further down into the woods. We'll see what happens.
Gotta make up ground.
I'm going Oklahoma minus 17.5 at home against Central Florida. I don't want to hear about the defense. Dylan Gabriel and those boys are rolling. They had a week to digest their win against Texas. I think they come out focused. I think they get up big early. Central Florida's got to come out of their shell, do things they don't want to do. I think Oklahoma runs away with this one at home in Norman. I think Oklahoma. Second game, it's the first time picking them all year. I'm going Michigan minus 24.5. I was a little weary about this because certain things do happen in rivalry games, even though we don't look at them quite like that. That being said, with what's going on in the last couple of days, I think this team, I promise you, I think all good coaches have to be petty to some degree. I think it's part of being a good coach. If you don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to absolutely try to mud stomp this team after what he's been accused of this week, you are out of your mind. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up being like 59-3. I think Michigan State gets blown out. I think that stadium's empty at halftime. J.J. McCarthy borderline plays better away than he does at home. I think they roll. I'll lay the 24.5 on the line and see what happens. For my super dog, teaming up with my boy Cottrell again, I'm going Washington State plus 18.5 at Oregon. I know it's homecoming. I know it's all that. Cam Ward needs a rebound game. Cottrell's not wrong on that one. I think he goes in. I think he balls out. Not saying they lose. Not saying Oregon loses. I just think this is a lot tighter game than people think it is. I think Washington State, they're kind of in the same boat. Started out hot. They've kind of hit the skids the last 2 weeks. They got to play better. They have to have a rebound game here sooner or later. Maybe Bo Nix stays out too late the night before with a homecoming queen. Who knows? Things happen. He's
married. He's married.
Yeah.
He's at home. He ain't out.
Yeah, because that's never stopped anybody before. So it's I'm going Washington State plus 18.5. Again, I think Oregon wins, but I think Cam Ward keeps them in the game long enough to snatch me and Cottrell some Superdog points. So those are my picks for the week. So we got 3 minutes to spare as normal. I've perfectly paced this show. I will take all the credit. But no, listen. Yeah. I don't have anywhere near. I got a couple weeds and like one flower in the corner. That's what I got right now.
Nope.
But as always, gentlemen, another great show, another great day of college football coming up. I did look it up. It is not this Tuesday. It is the following Tuesday. November 1st is when we get the first college football playoff rankings. So it will be it'll be 2 weeks away, not this upcoming week, but the following Tuesday. So maybe we will put 31st. Some. Is it the 31st? I just looked it up.
Hey, I'm just telling you what the days are. Don't shoot the middleman.
Listen, I hope they are next week. That's even better. So
no, it's 31st. 31st isn't next week, but
2 weeks. Yeah, it's still 2 weeks. Okay, so we'll see what's going on. Maybe we could put together a little quick live show for everybody, but more on that later. But listen, another great day of games. Go enjoy them. I hope your team wins. And we'll see you back here next Saturday. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts? Alex has one. He wants to say something.
That's it's gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be a shot.
He pointed right at you too. He wanted you to go first.
I know.
He wants.
You know what? Hurry up, Alex! I gotta go watch Ohio State win another football game.
Alex is hurting, coming off a loss last week. I'm gonna let him close the show. So
I know. That's what I'm saying. Hurry up! He wants somebody to join him over there on the pretender side.
Boys,
it's pretty low.
The floor is yours. The floor is yours, Alex.
All right, everybody have a fantastic, wonderful day watching football. Everybody cheer on the Nittany Lions as they smoke the Ohio State Buckeyes and knock them out of college football playoff for good. That's my Pat McAfee take for the year. I'm done.
You hear this guy? You know what? Alex, you better be happy Bo Nix is married because that's the only ring he'll ever get.
Damn! All right. Well, we're throwing bombs.
All right,
Joe.
You claim Joe Burrow. I'm out.
This show is off the rails. Everybody, we will see you next weekend.